In today's video, we're going to be talking about the 14 worst foods you can eat for insulin resistance. Because I know people like to say everything in moderation and just control your portions. And sure, that sounds nice, but the reality is just telling people to eat less doesn't work. If it did, you wouldn't be watching this video. If it really were that easy, we wouldn't be in a situation where over 80% of adults are metabolically unhealthy and have some insulin resistance. The hard truth is that some foods are good for insulin resistance and can help to reverse it, and some foods are bad for insulin resistance and can actually contribute to it. And then of course, there's foods that are in between. But today we are focusing on the bad foods. And I will say before we begin, I know it can be discouraging to see a list of bad foods or foods that you shouldn't be eating. I get it. But I actually did a video a couple of weeks ago on the best foods you can eat, which I will link above. Because eating for insulin resistance doesn't have to be boring, it doesn't have to be bland. There are a lot of foods you can eat that are absolutely delicious. So make sure to check that video out afterwards. Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Kate. I am a certified health and nutrition coach. I post videos twice a week here on YouTube talking all things insulin resistance, blood sugar management, weight loss, sleep, and more. So if you want to take control of your metabolic health, make sure to click that subscribe button. And you can also find me on TikTok and Instagram where I share new posts every single day. Now, I just want to say one last thing before we get into it. Yes, today we are focusing on the bad foods, but does that mean that you can never eat these foods ever again? No, it doesn't. I believe in progress over perfection. We don't need to eat a perfect diet in order to get results. What matters is what you do the majority of the time and not the minority. So if you want to eat these foods, absolutely be my guest. But just keep in mind that they're not doing anything to help your insulin resistance. So pick and choose your battles. But anyways, let's get into it. Number 1, fruit juice. First on the list today is fruit juice. And this includes both fruit juice you buy from the store and freshly squeezed juice at home. I think most people nowadays have come to the realization that juice is actually just sugar. It is actually much worse to drink a glass of orange juice than it is to eat an orange. Juice is a refined source of sugar that is absorbed very easily and very quickly by the body. When you drink juice, your blood sugar is going to spike and insulin is going to be released in order to deal with this spike. And if you're insulin resistant, then your body is going to have trouble managing this excess sugar. It's going to have to pump out excess insulin. Your insulin is going to remain elevated for hours, further contributing to insulin resistance. And it's even worse if you drink juice first thing in the morning when you're fasted and you haven't eaten anything all night. The blood sugar response is going to be even more significant, and the insulin response as well. Because when we're reversing insulin resistant, we want to keep our insulin low. Our cells are resisting insulin because there's too much of it. So anything we can do to help keep insulin low, to reduce our need for it, is going to be beneficial. But it isn't just sugar alone that's the issue here. It is the type of sugar that is largely in juice that's a problem as well. This type of sugar being fructose. Fructose has to be processed by the liver in order to be used, whereas glucose does not need to be processed by the liver and can be used immediately for energy. Excess fructose tends to be stored as visceral fat, whereas excess glucose tends to be stored as subcutaneous fat. And visceral fat is highly associated with insulin resistance. Having visceral fat is a key indicator. As I said before, you are much better off eating a whole fruit than drinking a glass of its juice. Orange juice, for example, has 12 grams of fructose, whereas one whole orange only has 3 grams. And plus, with the orange, you are also getting some fiber, which helps to slow down the blood sugar and the insulin response. Number 2, cereal. This is another morning favorite. And just like juice, it's even worse when we consume it first thing in the morning when we're fasted, because it's almost entirely comprised of carbohydrates, with very little protein and even less fat. Due to this, the blood sugar response is significant. And because the blood sugar response is significant, the insulin response is as well. On top of that, when your blood sugar spikes like this, it crashes a couple hours later, which results in not only an energy crash, but a mood crash and cravings. So starting your day with cereal is one of the worst things you can do, because the whole rest of the day, you're gonna be on this blood sugar roller coaster with energy spikes, energy crashes, cravings. Not a good way to start the day. Number 3, baked goods. This includes muffins, croissants, pastries, basically anything you find in a bakery you want to stay away from. All of these foods are refined sources of grains and have a significant impact on blood sugar. Now, to reiterate what I said at the start of this video, having these foods once in a while, not the end of the world. If it's someone's birthday and you want to have a slice of cake, absolutely do it. The goal here is improving our health and improving our quality of life. And as I said before, I don't believe in having a perfect diet. You don't need to be perfect in order to see progress, but just make good choices when you can. Number 4, dried fruit. This one is bad for the same reason as fruit juice. When you take the moisture out of these fruits, they are basically just isolated sources of sugar. Again, you're better off eating the whole fresh fruit. Number 5, flavored yogurt. Flavored yogurts usually, but not always, number 1, have a lot of the fat removed, and number 2, have added sugar. When it comes to yogurt, choose full fat options instead, without added flavor. Greek yogurt is a great option because it's usually also higher in protein. Number 5, bread. Bread is definitely not a good option for anyone who's trying to reverse insulin resistance and keep their insulin low. And I'm talking about all types of bread: white bread, whole wheat bread, rye bread, sourdough bread. Yes, some of them do have a slightly lower blood sugar and insulin response, but it is still significant no matter the type of bread you choose. And remember, the key to reversing insulin resistance is to keep your insulin levels low. Now, I know this is one of the hardest foods for people to give up. Our diets are so heavily based around bread. We have eggs on toast for breakfast, a sandwich for lunch, bread rolls for dinner. But I promise you, it's easier to make the switch than you think. Bread really is just a filler food. Instead of eggs on toast, you can make an omelet with mushrooms and cheese. Instead of a sandwich, you can use the same ingredients and make a big salad. Instead of a burrito, you can make a burrito bowl. All of these swaps will make a big difference. Like bread and some of the other foods we have talked about today, pasta is a refined source of carbohydrates, meaning it has a big impact on our blood sugar and our insulin. Number 8, rice. And the same goes for rice. This includes all types, white, brown, you name it. Contrary to what most people think, brown rice actually isn't healthier. Number 9, vegetable oil. Now, this one is interesting because the connection isn't as obvious. When I say vegetable oil, I am referring to canola oil, soybean oil, corn oil, grapeseed oil, rice bran oil, safflower oil, and sunflower oil, which ironically, none of these come from vegetables. Vegetable oil is just a clever marketing name. Now, like I said, the connection between insulin resistance and vegetable oils isn't super clear. There hasn't been too many studies on it, but there's one I want to highlight that was done on mice. Half the mice were fed a diet high in corn oil, so vegetable oil, and the other half were fed a diet high in olive oil. The group with the corn oil developed hyperinsulinemia, which is high blood insulin, and insulin resistance. The mice were eating the exact same amount of fat, but one group from vegetable oil and the other from a healthier oil, olive oil. And yet one group became insulin resistant and one group didn't. So what are the alternatives to these vegetable oils, you might be asking? Well, as we learned from the study, olive oil is a better option and avocado oil is another option as well. But the thing with these two oils is, yes, they are better than vegetable oil, especially for cooking, but they can't actually withstand a lot of heat without oxidizing. I know avocado oil is touted as having a high smoke point, but the smoke point is not the same as the point at which the oil oxidizes. So avocado oil and olive oil, they're high in monounsaturated fat, which is more heat stable than the type of fat in vegetable oils, but it's less heat stable than saturated fat, which is ideal for high heat cooking. So for high heat cooking, you want to use fats that are solid at room temperature. These include ghee, tallow, butter, lard, and duck fat. Number 10, margarine. Margarine, which has also somewhat been rebranded as plant butter, is not a healthier option than butter. It is not good for insulin resistance. It is made from vegetable oils, which we spoke about earlier, and we know that they can contribute to insulin resistance. So cut out the margarine, use real butter. Your heart and your insulin resistance will thank you. Number 11, pop. Now, pop is bad for the same reason that fruit juice is. It is just a concentrated source of sugar and very high in fructose. Not ideal for insulin resistance. Number 12, tropical fruit. Okay, this one people might not be too happy about, but tropical fruits are higher in sugar and fructose than non-tropical fruits. You are better off sticking to low sugar fruits such as berries instead. Number 13, fruit smoothies. Smoothies have been praised as being a health food by a lot of people, but unfortunately they are not ideal for insulin resistance, depending on how you make them. Like juice, you are isolating the sugar and taking away the fiber, resulting in a bigger spike in blood sugar and insulin than if you were to eat the fruit alone. Now, there are ways to make smoothies that are more insulin friendly. Again, swapping the high sugar fruit for low sugar fruit, but you can also add fat and protein to the smoothie, which will decrease the response as well. Number 14, alcohol. No one is ever happy to hear this, but alcohol can also contribute to insulin resistance. Similar to the way that fructose has to be processed by the liver, alcohol does as well. And excess tends to get stored as visceral fat, which again is associated with insulin resistance. And those are the 14 worst foods you can eat for insulin resistance. So to recap, number 1, fruit juice. Number 2, cereal. Number 3, baked goods. Number 4, dried fruit. Number 5, flavored yogurt. Number 6, bread. Number 7, pasta. Number 8, rice. Number 9, vegetable oil. Number 10, margarine. Number 11, pop. Number 12, tropical fruit. Number 13, fruit smoothies. And number 14, alcohol. Let me know in the comment section down below if you have cut any of these foods out of your diet and if you noticed any improvements to your insulin resistance. If you're not already, make sure to click that subscribe button so you don't miss an upload, and click that like button if you enjoyed the video. If you know anyone who might find the video helpful, you can also share it with them. If you did enjoy this video, you might also enjoy my video on the best foods for insulin resistance, which you can check out here. If you want to catch up on my most recent upload, you can find it here. And if you want to check out my keto diet and carnivore diet coaching programs, you can find them here. Thanks guys, I'll see you next time. Bye.